I want to welcome everybody to our final webinar of 2020. I am Danny Rubin, the founder of our company, which is called Rubin, and we provide an online curriculum for business communication skills. Teachers, raise your hand if you want to help your students with their email etiquette and their phone etiquette. See some hands flying up. We provide guidance to help students communicate at their best for college and career opportunities. And I want to also welcome in a new element to our webinars, Miss Nicolette Velazquez, who is an American Sign Language interpreter. We've had requests from teachers to have an interpreter with us for students who need that service. So this is our trial run. And I'd love some feedback from the teachers and students who benefit from this afterwards or in the chat, because we want to be as inclusive as possible with our webinar series. Okay, first thing I'd like to do, as I always do, I'm going to share my screen, get my chat going. Everybody can see my screen, correct? Mia, yes, you see a PowerPoint? Okay. For the teachers, we always like to give out free resources. The first thing I'd love for you to have is an online presentation checklist, teaching students how to, and for teachers too, how to prepare for online presentations, how to stand, how to look, your background, your lighting, what to say, how to deliver it at your best. It's a great one-page checklist to leave next to your computer screen or give to your students, so that they can be on their game for virtual presentations. If you'd like this worksheet, and for those who don't have it yet, we have some new people in our session. We have a Google document with email etiquette exercises to give to your students. They can do this from home. Take a look at the topics going down the screen. Really helping them understand the difference between a text message to a friend and an email to a teacher or employer, writing out the different parts of an email. And when students complete the unit, you can give them a digital badge for their resume or e-portfolio, so they can add the badge to show off the skills that they've gained in the classroom to the outside world. So for the teachers who would like these resources, who don't have them yet, or if you like it again to pass along to other teachers, here's all we'd like for you to do. We do this every webinar. Please type, this is for teachers and instructors, please type the word interested and your email address in the chat. What we like to do, since we can't meet each other face to face like we typically would, is please put interested and your email address. For new folks, we follow up with a brief 5-minute phone call in the coming days to pass along the resources, get to know you and your program, help you make the most of these resources with your students. So if you'd like these resources, interested, and your email, thanks to those who are doing it. It's great to get to know you and actually talk versus all this virtual stuff where we're so disconnected. So we will pass it along in the coming days. And thanks to those who are typing it, continue to do so. I want to keep our little housekeeping notes moving along, so we can get to our special guest presenter and our special guest today. So thank you for those putting interested, and we'll return to this at the end of our session too as a reminder. All right, the other thing, you might be wondering, what about, especially if you're new here, what are these webinars? Does the Rubin Company do these all the time? Yes, we are going to continue with our webinar series into 2021. We hope to interview people in fields like nursing, banking, in the trades like in automotive, information technology, and other occupations into the winter and the spring. And actually, for the teachers here and the students, if there's a particular occupation you would like to learn more about, please put it in the chat. Type in the chat, tell us some jobs you'd like to explore, and we'll put it in our big bank of occupations to learn more about. Veterinary tech, nursing, great. So give us your ideas in the chat and we'll save this and refer to it, because we take your feedback seriously. And lastly, everybody today will receive a certificate of completion for our webinar. Teachers and students, you will receive this tomorrow morning. It's a printable certificate to show you were here today. So look out for that coming your way tomorrow. Thank you for all the ideas about different jobs. Now let me show you one more thing, and then we will bring our guest back in. It's important for, who here, let me get my chat going again. Raise your hand if you are new here, if you have not been here before. New teacher or a new student. Okay, a lot of hands. So it's important that you understand the Rubin company, what we do. I'll take just a few seconds to explain. We provide a curriculum called Emerge, and it's an online curriculum that integrates to learning management systems like Canvas, Schoology, Google Classroom, and it's a library of different instructional exercises like learning how to write an email, life skills like meeting new people, phone and video etiquette. How many teachers want to teach their students to leave a voicemail or have their own voicemail set up? These are the kind of skills that we teach. Employability skills like networking emails, resumes, cover letters, internship and job outreach emails, writing a LinkedIn profile, preparing for job interviews. Anybody here teach marketing, entrepreneurship, FBLA, DECA, or you teach those types of skills within your own student organization? We teach finding business ideas, sales writing, website page writing, public relations to get the word out about a student business, fundraising communication. And finally, we teach leadership skill communication for managers, writing to clients, project management correspondence, public speaking exercises, learning to write reports and summaries and updates to your customers, and activities designed for students in leadership roles within your school. So a big wide menu. We will touch on one of the examples in our program at the end of our conversation to learn how to write an effective handwritten thank you note as an example to someone like Mr. Lefkowitz, who is generously giving us his time. And we want to show him how much we appreciate that. So let me come back to center here. And let's bring Mr. Lefkowitz back into, look at that, I said it'd be 12:38, and here we are, 12:38 on the nose. Okay, so I want to welcome you in. Thrilled to have you. We have a great crowd here, almost 300 people here joining us live. And let's start off, give us your history. It's a long history, so you got to do it in a short window, but give us your history in hospitality and tourism and the work you're doing now.
Well, first of all, thank you, Danny, for having me. It's great to see you and to be with you this afternoon. My name is Jay Lefkowitz. I work currently at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center, just outside of Washington, D.C. Gaylord is part of the Marriott International family of brands, so very happy to be here today. My history, to keep it short, I've got over 20 years in the hospitality industry. And I kind of fell into it. I started as a bellman at a hotel that no longer exists down at the Virginia Beach oceanfront in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And just through various summer jobs and after school jobs, kind of worked my way through various positions in the hotel industry, working in bell services, working at the front desk. Decided that I liked it, so chose to pursue an undergraduate degree in hospitality and tourism management from Virginia Tech. And then after Virginia Tech, I took a manager training program, manager development program track with Marriott International, and that's where I've been ever since. So I've been with Marriott for a very long time, working in various disciplines in hospitality. I started in the front office. I spent some time in housekeeping operations. I worked in food and beverage. I've worked in human resources. I've held various executive committee positions, working as assistant general manager, director of operations for some of our full service hotels, Renaissance brand, Marriott brand hotels. And for the last 4 years now, I've been at Gaylord National as the director of group strategy. So really focusing with revenue management, which I know is a buzzword. We can talk a little bit about that later. But revenue management is a function where we're in charge of pricing and strategy development. So the way I always like to explain revenue management is getting the right room to the right customer at the right time for the right price through the right channel. And there's a lot of through and ands there. But essentially, the way I like to simplify this is if you're a leisure guest, you go to Marriott.com and you type in the dates and the place you want to go. I'm the guy on the other end of the website that decides what rate you get and what you see at the end of the day. Alternatively, if you're looking to have a conference or a meeting and you're talking with a sales manager about all of the different food and beverage and the events and the room blocks, I'm the guy on the other side that gives the sales manager that same information. What should we charge? All of those different things. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of science, but there's a lot of art to the science as well. So it's been a lot of fun. This year, obviously, with COVID, has been very different. The hospitality industry has really had to reinvent itself and change, and I know we'll talk about that today as well. But
Great.
yeah, lots of experience in very different areas. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And you segued into what I wanted to ask you. Let me first ask the group, for any teachers or students who have been here before, what do I always encourage you to do when you're about to meet somebody new? What do we do before the meeting? And I sent you, for those who saw the worksheet, I sent you a couple of links. That's right. Yvonne says research. So let's do a little teachable moment, and we'll ask a question to Mr. Lefkowitz. I'm going to share my screen once more. And for those of you who saw the worksheet I sent out, I provided this document called Commitment to Clean, showing the various ways that, I guess this is Marriott, right? Or is this Gaylord? Both Marriott.
This particular one is Gaylord, yes.
Gaylord has stepped up their game to make the hotels as clean and safe as possible. And one thing I noticed is I saw it says electrostatic sprayers. And so that got me thinking, I want to learn more about electrostatic sprayers and also just what Gaylord is doing to be safe in the pandemic. So what I did is what I want all of you to do for your future opportunities is do your research before the opportunity is there. Have a question ready. And when you're sitting down in front of that person in Zoom or in face-to-face, you have a question ready that shows you did your homework. And that is an impressive thing to do, especially at a young age. So my question to Mr. Lefkowitz, and he started talking about it a minute ago, how has the hotel had to adjust in the pandemic, and what exactly are electrostatic sprayers?
Sure, thank you. So I'll talk about just in general, hotels in general, and the hotel industry in general. And the simple way to say it is nowhere in the history of time has travel just stopped for a long period of time. We've had different things that have happened throughout the years where, for example, after 9/11, travel kind of stopped for a little bit. But within a week, planes were flying, people started to travel back again, so on and so forth. But with COVID, we can't do that. It's not necessarily safe for thousands and thousands of people to be in a room with each other. So how do we get people to feel confident again to travel? And that's really what the focus is doing, is how can we, Marriott specifically, do that. So the commitment to clean, which is what Danny had showed there, is what Marriott has set themselves apart to do to make sure that we can give confidence to our guests that we're doing everything we can to make it a safe environment for you to travel. Electrostatic sprayers specifically, the science behind it in a nutshell is that it takes, and I want to make sure, I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right.
It's okay.
But it charges liquids, in this case, disinfectants, so that they can actively seek out across an environmental surface to make sure that we are seeking out germs, if you will, that need to be cleaned. So for example, with Marriott, what we do is prior to a guest's arrival in a room, we go through before the beds are made, before the pillows are on the bed, and we spray this electrostatic sprayer through all of the hard surfaces in the room. So think about things like the desk, the television, the nightstand, the bed frame, the bathroom counter. And that way, what we do is we allow the chemicals to work while the housekeeper is cleaning and doing everything they need to do, so that we've just given some additional level of confidence that we've really done everything we can to remove any evidence from a previous guest that has been there. And that's kind of the science behind that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And tell us, how many rooms, hotel rooms, does the Gaylord have?
So Gaylord National is a large convention center hotel. We have just under 2,000 guest rooms, 1,996 guest rooms, and over 560,000 square feet of meeting space. So to put that in perspective, because I know those numbers are kind of abstract, we are the third largest non-casino hotel on the East Coast of the United States. So kind of take out Atlantic City and those types of hotels, but you think about large convention and meeting hotels, and that's where we are. So
wow.
Quite a big operation.
Huge. So I asked that question because if you've been to our webinars before, what do I always stress? I stress numbers, right? How many hotel rooms did Mr. Lefkowitz say the Gaylord has? What was the number he said? That true number. He said 2,000, but then he also said a little bit less than that, 1,996. Very good. We want to listen for numbers. We want to use our own numbers in our own life of the numbers we own, of how many of something we've done or how much money we have raised or whatever our number, how many hours we spent, right? So listen for the numbers today and keep your ear out for that. So, okay, let's go to some questions. We have some good ones. Let's start at sort of the beginning of the career, Mr. Lefkowitz. We have a question from Miss Tracy Davenport, a teacher in Colorado. And she says, maybe it's on behalf of her students, what can people that want to go into the hospitality field do to prepare for, well, it says the future, maybe the future for themselves, but also just the future of where the business is going? How can students today get started?
Sure, great question. And I think the piece about future is important, because I think with hospitality especially, there's an immediate future. There's what are we doing in the next 6 to 12 months, but eventually, common thought in the world is that, with the development of the vaccines and how well that seems to be going at this point, there's a lot still to be determined. But the general consensus in the hospitality world is that travel will resume and that we should pick back up. 2019 was a record occupancy year for the hospitality industry. We are expecting to get back to 2019 travel levels within the next 3 to 4 years. So with that being said, by the time we're looking at jobs, graduation, those types of things, the hope, the expectation is that we'll be back to a more normal travel environment. So with that being said, the best thing to do is get experience. Make sure that you enjoy doing what you're doing. And that's good for anything. You have to love what you've been doing. So I think, get a job working in a restaurant, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's waiting tables, whether it's bussing tables, being a host. Get a job as a bellman, get a job working the front desk at a hotel, be, a greeter. Anything where you're interacting with people, be a cashier somewhere. You have to make sure that you're enjoying working with people, because at the end of the day, anybody can learn how to do any job in a hotel. The technical parts of the job can be taught, but we can't teach somebody to enjoy being with other people. So make sure that that's really something that you want to do. And as long as you enjoy working with people, you enjoy being around other people, you're going to go far in hospitality.
That's great. Great answer. There's a question here from Abby Kay from Garrard County High School. She was asking about the most important aspects of hospitality and tourism. She mentioned pricing. So I'm going to make a little spin off of her question, because I think it'd be interesting for us to hear. When you say you help with pricing the rooms, take us through the science and the art, as you said. When I show up on your website, why do I see a certain price? How does this happen every day, how you're determining what a room would cost?
This is a great question, and it's one that we talk about all of the time. Every day I talk about pricing. So from a just basic mathematical standpoint, we have a cost to do business. There's a cost to run the hotel. Our largest cost, of course, is labor, right? We need the people in the hotel. Everybody from the person taking the reservation, to the person at the front desk, to the person cleaning your room, but to the people you don't see, to the security officers, to the building engineers, to everybody behind the scenes. There's labor costs, there's the electricity, general overhead, administrative costs. Then there's the cost of all the little things that go in the guest room, the shampoo bottles, the pen and paper, all of those items. So we have to make sure when we price a hotel room that we're covering our costs at least, and that we're making sure we're making a profit. Um, as much as I enjoy hospitality and enjoy working in hotels, it's a business, right? We are here to make a profit for our stakeholders. And then the rest of the pricing is based off of simple supply and demand. So if you're familiar with supply and demand, pricing can adjust based off of the demand and availability for any specific item. So for example, July 4th weekend in Washington, D.C., there's high demand. It's a busy travel time. There's a lot of people that come to Washington for Capitol 4th, for all of the events that you see on television. So because there's high demand and only a certain amount of hotel rooms, we're going to do everything we can to try to get the most money for those hotel rooms, knowing that they are in short supply. On the alternative side, at this time of year, in December, in a normal year, the next couple of weeks are very slow. Around the holidays, there's no convention business. It's cold. People aren't outside traveling and touring. So there's an overabundance of supply. So we're not able to drive as much revenue, drive higher prices when there's such a large amount of available hotel rooms in the area. That's kind of the art and the science behind it.
Okay, that's great. And those of you, please put your questions in the Q&A. That's where we're sifting through to find some good ones. And I have one in just a second. But I also wanted to put in the chat from our worksheet that I passed out beforehand. Here's a question you could answer on our worksheet or also in your own computer, in Microsoft Word, for instance. Just think about writing down one interesting fact you learned about Mr. Lefkowitz's job. So that's a question we'd like you to answer as you go through today's conversation. A question from, it's really a practical question from Chef Machete, Kennedy High School, Fremont, California. He says, during the pandemic, are you still offering internship programs? What are the opportunities to intern at Marriott properties?
Great question. One of the unfortunate side effects of kind of this, worldwide decline in travel is that the hospitality industry has really taken the brunt of job losses over the last, since March, since the last 8 months or so. My hotel, for example, is currently not open. We are currently closed. We're anticipating being able to open in early 2021. But I'm very fortunate in that my work continues even while the hotel's closed. But in a lot of cases, there's a lot of people at my hotel that currently aren't working. So we have people who are on furlough, who are still active employees, but just not currently working. But we have a lot of colleagues throughout the entire industry that have been let go from their jobs. Their jobs are found to no longer be needed. So while I would love to say that there's a plethora of job availability and internships currently, it depends on individual hotels, on their individual needs. Some locations where travel is less restricted, some hotels are doing well. Other areas, hotels are just kind of moving along, and in a lot of cases, hotels are still closed. So internships and those type of jobs, there may be some available, but I don't believe that there are any from a system-wide standpoint that we're currently looking at. But I would certainly encourage you to reach out to the resources in your local area, in your local community, to determine what might be available at a local level.
Thank you very much. A question from Michael Bird. He says, how many hours a week do people work in a hotel? Maybe more broadly, what are the schedules? It's obviously a 24-hour operation. So what are the types of schedules people work?
Sure, and with hospitality, as you said, it's a 24/7 operation. We don't close generally, so people need to be working at all hours of the day. There are some jobs in hospitality that are kind of a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of job. However, that's few and far between. A lot of jobs in the hospitality industry require working flexible shifts, so it could be from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. It could be a swing shift, working from 3 in the afternoon until 11 at night. It could be an overnight shift as well. We need to have people at the hotels on those overnight hours. And those hours, those shifts, vary based on the areas. In the culinary world, we need people there at 4 a.m. to start cooking breakfast. We need people in overnight in security to make sure that everybody's safe while they're sleeping. So a lot of it just depends on various disciplines, but it's safe to say that 24 hours a day, people need to be in the hotel. So regardless of what your preference is, I would say it's great because there's always going to be a need for different people to work different hours in different departments.
Thank you. Another question from Garrard County High School. Great questions. Who's the teacher from Garrard County? You brought your students. Say hello in the chat. Great question. Says, how has the change in food prep and other services impacted guest satisfaction? That's an interesting question. How have the changes impacted how guests receive and feel about the service?
Sure. This is an interesting time in that right now people are generally traveling because they want to travel. There's sometimes, we have individuals who are traveling because they have to attend a conference, or maybe they're in a sales type of role where they need to travel in order to make their sales goals. So they have to be on the road or they have to travel. A lot of that isn't happening right now. So we're fortunate in the regards that people who are traveling want to be there. And they are so excited to be on property, interacting with different individuals, that what we're finding is people are just generally happier when they're out and about. I think just out of the house, you feel happy, right? So guest satisfaction is on an upswing, if you will. Specifically as it relates to food prep, I think that's just in all areas. There's certainly a lot of changes in the way that we prepare our foods and the way that we set up our event spaces. Buffets look very different right now.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of individually packaged items, for example. So I think there's probably, there's more work, there's more thought, there's more care right now that goes into a lot of that. But overall, I think people are just happy to be out and about, interacting with people outside of their house.
I think we all, who likes to get some fresh air outside your house every now and then? Show of hands, getting out of your house for a minute and being around other people. See a lot of hands. Question here. First of all, I meant to say, I usually say it a million times and I forgot. Today, for those of you in the chat, please make sure you're setting it to all panelists and attendees, not just all panelists, so everybody can see what we're writing. So I should have mentioned that 30 minutes ago, but say it now. And so question here from, I hope I'm saying the name right, apologize if not, Kayari Hall. Let's get back to the interns for a second. I know many hotels cannot take interns right now, but when the world returns and there are internship opportunities, what do interns typically do at a hotel?
Sure. An internship is an amazing opportunity. I did one internship when I was in college, and the program hasn't it's evolved, but the structure of it is really kind of similar. You're assigned a specific area in an internship. So you may be an intern in the kitchen, let's say. So you might be working at a specific outlet, our breakfast restaurant, and you'd be focusing on the production, for example, of, breakfast for that specific restaurant. And you'll learn all of the different stations, whether you're looking at garde manger, whether you're working in the bakery, whether you're working in pastry, those types of things. On the other side of that, you get the opportunity to rotate through various areas in your discipline. So in the food and beverage area, if you're working in culinary, maybe you get to spend some time in the front of the house, be working as a host, working as a server, working as a buffet attendant. And you also get to rotate through other areas of the hotel, maybe working in the front office, working in housekeeping, working in human resources or finance. So it's a great opportunity to be able to focus in an area where you think you want to focus a career while still gaining skills and getting exposure to some other areas of the hotel that you may not have thought about before.
That's great. Thank you. Question here from Sydney Travis. And Sydney, please let us know what school you attend if you can hear that. What does an average day look like for you? And I know your day has changed over the years. You have different roles and responsibilities. What does it look like today? And maybe back when you were at the front desk, what does that day look like? But give us what today is and maybe what some past years have been like too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. No day is ever the same. There's different things that always happen. There's always email, there's always meetings. Right now, there's always Zoom calls about something. So while the Mode of communication is constant. What you're communicating about and how you're communicating is constantly different. Right now, a lot of my focus, I mentioned that the hotel is closed, is about getting the hotel reopened. So working with our sales team to understand what business do we have coming in 2021, and then kind of taking that information, preparing a budget and a forecast against it, to then work with our finance and operations partners to determine how do we backtrack that to know when we should open the doors, when do we need to bring back the staff, when do we need to start prepping the building. So that's one piece. That's where a lot of my attention is focused right now. There's a lot of communication, a lot of meetings, but then also kind of a lot of modeling, financial modeling, statistical modeling to understand what's happening. In other parts of the hotel, working at the front desk, for example, you are at the mercy of our guests. And I say that in the most wonderful way possible, because that's what drives the day. What you bring to it is a positive attitude. So every interaction that you're going to have with a guest hopefully starts out very positive and hopefully ends on a positive note as well. But at the front desk, in addition to check in, check out, kind of the basic functions, you are making sure that the communication is happening across the hotel. You're working with housekeeping to understand when rooms are going to be occupied, when they're going to be vacant, when the rooms will be ready, when the rooms won't be ready. You'll work with engineering to communicate any items that need to be repaired from one guest to the next. You'll focus on, making sure that hopefully you'll have a line at the front desk. It's busy enough where there's a line. You'll be able to help manage the individuals and the guests in that line, greet them, so on and so forth. So you'll be doing similar tasks, but each day is always something different just by the nature that you're interacting with different people.
Wonderful. And I'm curious, for the students who are interested in this industry, can you type in the chat some of the jobs you might like to do in a hotel? Tell us the types of things that you're interested in. Is it front desk? Is it in the kitchen? Is it in guest services, housekeeping, manager? Make sure you're doing all panelists and attendees, okay? All change your settings so we can see. We have a lot of front desk, host, curious to see, chef in the kitchen. There you go. The sort of IT. So we're kind of covering it all, right?
It's a great one. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is great. Whoa, sous chef, I can't even keep up. Great. So another question that just, again, a very practical question, and I think I lost track of which student asked it. My apologies. If it was you, say so. But how old do you have to be an intern or to help at the hotel? When can you start?
Sure. So a lot of it depends on the local work regulations in your community, in your state, or in your jurisdiction, your county, your city. Have to make sure everything's legal, of course. For a lot of the areas, I believe that you have to be 18, simply from a liability standpoint, from an insurance standpoint. But I believe that there are some areas where we would allow individuals who are younger than 18 to work. In some positions, because of alcoholic beverage requirements, you do have to be 21. But again, a lot of it depends on the rules, the laws in your local jurisdiction govern a lot of that.
Okay. And just a kind of a broad question, maybe our last one, maybe we'll get one more in. If students they're sitting there at home right now, or they're in school, wherever they are, and they say, I really want to explore this, just like you did way back when, what is the first step you advise them to take?
Go to the place where you want to work and introduce yourself. Technology is wonderful. Technology is absolutely great. It's allowing us to communicate today. However, hospitality is a person-to-person industry. So the best advice I can give to people is go and put yourself in front of the hiring manager for that hotel, for that position, that restaurant, wherever it is that you want to work. Show the initiative, take the initiative, make sure you're dressed appropriately, make sure you've got your resume ready to go, make sure you have a couple questions that you want to ask. Like Danny was saying, make sure you've done your research on the establishment, but put yourself out there and put yourself in front of the person who's in charge of making the hiring decisions. Managers want to talk to people. Anybody that's running a hospitality establishment is there because they enjoy people. They want to talk to you. Just make sure that you put yourself out there.
That's great. And let's go inside your answer just a little bit more. So we walk into that hotel and you ask for the manager, and the manager walks out. from the student, what do you want to see in terms of body language from that student in that moment?
A lot of it, and I would even say before you say I'd like to speak to the manager, because if you're the front desk clerk and somebody walks up to you and says I want to talk to the
Something's
manager,
wrong,
your first thought is that it's a complaint.
right?
So I would even say strike up a conversation with the first person you meet, because that person is going to be your gateway to get to the manager. So make sure that you're acknowledging them. Good morning, how are you today? Hey, I'm interested in working here. How did you get to work here? Strike up just a short conversation with the first person you meet. That person will then want to go and make sure that you get to speak to the manager. So that's the first piece. And then once you are in front of the decision maker, the manager, talk about who you are and why you're there. You are somebody that's interested in working in that environment. Make sure you're standing up straight, right?
Right.
Basics, right? You're dressed appropriately. And dressed appropriately doesn't necessarily mean business attire. I would say dress for the dress code of the environment. Again, doing your research. And I'll give a quick example. Marriott International has 30 brands of hotels. Our W brand looks and feels very different than our Ritz-Carlton brand. So make sure you understand which brand of a company you're going to look for, and make sure you represent that brand in the way that you dress and in the way that you speak.
How many hotel brands did he just say? Who heard the number? How many? There you go. We listen for numbers,
Excellent.
right? Numbers make it all happen. And they capture our attention. And did we say 6 too? Was there a 6 somewhere? Did I miss that? I heard 30.
I heard 30.
I'm not sure where the 6 came from, but 30. 30 is the number I was looking for. I feel like I'm a game show host. Looking for 30. Okay.
Great.
So thank you very much, Mr. Lefkowitz. Great stuff. Hang out with us just a second. I want to reiterate, first actually walk through one little demonstration of a follow-up, a thank you after a conversation like this, and then reiterate the resources for the teacher. So let me share my screen once more. Hop back over, get my chat going. I mentioned that in our curriculum, Emerge, we teach students all kinds of real life communication situations. And how many students have written a handwritten thank you note before? Show of hands. How many have written one before? I see some hands going up. How many teachers want to give their students practice with handwritten notes? Yes. It is a life skill, and I'm sure Mr. Lefkowitz would say that it's a rare day when you receive one, but it means a lot and it stays with you. So let's talk about writing a thank you note. Let's say, for example, it's after a networking meeting, okay? Just as one situation. Let me move my chat out of the way so I can see. And we're going to put, can anybody tell me in the chat, sorry, I need to get it back up here. What color ink on our pen should we use? I believe there are 2 options for pen. It's a black and blue. That's it, black or blue. No pink, no purple, no orange. Professional, you put the month and the day, you put the person's name, and you say, thank you again for meeting with me. And you say, I took a lot from our conversation, especially, and you give an example, right? We're all about specifics in here and showing our active listening skills. We say your insight into the engineering business. If, this is just a mock situation. And then, thanks for connecting me, whatever took place in that conversation, but be specific in your thank you. Don't just say thank you for your time and sign your name. Let's make it as meaningful and authentic as we can. And the person will receive this letter and feel like, wow, what an impressive young person to take the time to send me something handwritten. So teachers, feel free to refer to this example. We'll put the recording of this session on YouTube, and you're welcome to look at it and show it to students after the fact. Because we really stress that we want to be on top of our game at all aspects of looking for opportunities, and writing thank you notes is just one of them. Mr. Lefkowitz, what's your thought on receiving a thank you email or a thank you note, pen and paper?
It's funny, I was just looking at behind my computer screen. I'm in the process of writing thank you notes currently to my team members. This has been a very tough year for a lot of them. So I was making the point this week to make sure to send them a thank you note here before the end of the year. So it's something that I do to this day. It feels good to get something in the mail that's not an advertisement or a bill. So
that's right.
Yeah, and a handwritten note shows that a lot of time and care went into your thoughts.
That's right. So just as I'm telling you to write a handwritten note to someone like Mr. Lefkowitz, he's turning around and sending them to other people too. That's what makes the world go round. You put good out there in all directions. So I'm glad you piggybacked on that and helped to make the point. For the instructors who missed this at the beginning, we have some free educational resources to pass along. One is an online presentation checklist. It's a great one-page checklist to put next to your computer or your students' computers before they do a presentation, reminding them how to look and sound and act at your best when you're in front of that camera lens. And also a Google folder of exercises for email etiquette. I already asked you at the beginning that you want to help your students with their email skills, looking more professional with their email skills. So this unit is available for free from us in a Google folder. They also get a digital badge when they complete the exercises to put on their resume. And for those who missed it at the beginning, if you would like these resources, just type interested and your email address in the chat. If you're new to our community, we'll follow up with a brief conversation to provide the instruction, get to know your program, help you fit this into your class time the most efficient way possible. So if you missed it, here's the offer one more time. Love for you to have it. Please include not just the word interested, but also include your email address so we can follow up. We like to have a quick little phone call. We'll send a Google invitation in the coming days, chat briefly, say hello, pass it along, and you're off and running. And just as a last reminder, for those of you who are regular attendees, or maybe you're a first timer today, we will have more webinars in 2021. We're going to put a full schedule out for the winter and spring. Look for that in early January so we can have more of you join us. Please keep telling other teachers, other administrators, pass it around your school system. This was our best attended session today. And I hope to only increase the size of our crowds in January. I'm grateful for everyone who came today. And let's see, let's get maybe a couple last questions in, or maybe one thing. Anything you want to add? Any last thoughts from you, Mr. Lefkowitz, that we didn't touch on, or any sort of parting words?
No, I think, like everything else, this too shall pass. And I think, a lot of us in the hospitality industry are looking forward to being able to welcome our guests back and to get back to what we're doing well, which is take care of people. So if you have that passion, if you have that mindset about you, it'll take you far in this industry specifically. And thank you for the time today. I really enjoyed being here. There's some great questions, so I really appreciate those. And thank you to everybody for participating. It makes it a lot more fun.
Absolutely. And I also want to do a special thank you to Miss Velasquez, who I hope we haven't worn her out completely, but I think she did a great job keeping up with us. And if any instructors or students benefited from her being here, please let us know. We want to get some feedback on this new feature to our sessions, because we hope to incorporate it in the new year as well. Great. Glad to hear that. And last question to the students. Some of you maybe came in here interested in hospitality, maybe not. How many of you are interested now in pursuing or exploring this career field? Give me a show of hands, or tell me in the chat, how many of you are going, once you can safely get out there, how many of you are going to do it? That's great. I see a bunch of me and I am. Wonderful. Excellent. And I did see, Mr. Lefkowitz, early on, somebody had commented that their students were going to come to your hotel for a conference or a competition of some kind, and of course was canceled. So they were going to be in your world, and they were looking forward to that very much. So
we will look forward to welcoming you back soon in 2021.
That's right. I hope we can all stay in a hotel next year, and like old times, right? Just because Agreed. It's a great escape, and we love being in hotels, just to get away from the day in, day out. So I appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for being here. This is our last webinar of the year 2020. Who's ready for 2020 to be over? Show of hands on that. So we're one step closer. This is our last webinar. We will have dates and times for you in the early part of the new year. I appreciate your time and your attention, and we will see you in 2021. You are dismissed. Thanks, everybody.